The tank destroyer is burning. Flames are spreading toward the ammunition compartment. Any moment, the entire vehicle could explode into a fireball. But Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy climbs onto the turret anyway, grabs the .50 caliber machine gun, and starts firing at the German infantry advancing toward him from 3 directions. He is 19 years old and weighs 130 pounds. He is alone on top of a burning wreck in the middle of an open field. 6 German tanks and 250 infantrymen are closing in. Murphy does not retreat. He does not hide. For the next hour, he will hold this position and save his entire company. It is January 26, 1945. The Bois de Riedweiler, France. The woods near the village of Holzweiler are frozen solid. Snow covers the ground. The temperature is below freezing. Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy is commanding Company B of the 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. His company has been decimated. 4 days earlier, they fought their way into these woods and lost more than half their men. Of the 120 soldiers who entered the fight, only 18 are still combat effective. Every officer except Murphy is dead or wounded. Murphy is 19 years old and has been in command for less than a week. Murphy's company is stretched thin across a U-shaped defensive position. 2 fingers of forest extend toward the village of Holzweiler, which sits across open fields covered in snow. The Germans still control the village. Murphy knows they will counterattack. His men are exhausted, under strength, and exposed. 2 M10 tank destroyers from the 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion are positioned on a narrow dirt road that runs through Murphy's position. The tank destroyers are supposed to provide fire support, but Murphy knows those vehicles cannot stop German panzer tanks. Their guns are not powerful enough. He spent the night before January 26 preparing for the worst. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Murphy sees them. 6 German tanks roll out of Holzweiler, engines roaring. Behind them, more than 250 German infantrymen advance in waves. They are wearing white winter camouflage suits. Against the snow, they are almost invisible until they get close. Murphy watches through his binoculars. The Germans are moving fast. Murphy grabs his field telephone and starts calling in artillery coordinates. He orders his men to fall back to the tree line. If they stay in the open, the German tanks will overrun them. His men retreat into the woods. Murphy stays in the field. German artillery shells begin to fall. The ground shakes. Explosions throw snow and dirt into the air. Murphy crouches in a shallow foxhole, still calling in artillery strikes. American shells start landing between Murphy and the German advance. The explosions slow the enemy infantry but do not stop them. The 6 German tanks keep coming. One of the American M10 tank destroyers tries to engage. A German 88mm shell hits it directly. The commander and gunner are killed instantly. The surviving crew abandons the vehicle and runs for the woods. The second M10 tank destroyer tries to maneuver into a better firing position. The driver loses control. The vehicle slides off the narrow dirt road and tips into a drainage ditch. The main gun points uselessly toward the sky. The crew struggles to reposition the tank destroyer. Then German fire strikes the fuel tank. Flames erupt along the hull. Black smoke pours into the air. The crew scrambles out of the vehicle and retreats toward the tree line. Now Murphy is completely alone in the open field. The burning M10 tank destroyer sits 50 yards away. Flames are spreading across the armor. Inside the vehicle, ammunition and fuel are waiting to ignite. The entire wreck could explode at any moment. Murphy looks at the .50 caliber machine gun mounted on the turret of the burning tank destroyer. It is still operational. The gun has a clear field of fire across the approaches to Murphy's position. It is also the only heavy weapon left between the Germans and Company B. Murphy has already emptied his Mohn carbine. The German infantry is closing fast. Some are within 10 yards of his position. Murphy makes a decision. He sprints across the open field toward the burning tank destroyer and climbs onto the turret. Flames lick at his boots. Smoke chokes the air around him. Murphy grabs the .50 caliber machine gun and opens fire. The recoil of the .50 caliber machine gun hammers into Murphy's shoulders. Tracer rounds streak across the snow-covered field. The German soldiers in the nearest ditch are cut down instantly. Others dive for cover behind trees and into craters. Murphy keeps firing. He sweeps the gun left and right, forcing the German infantry to stop their advance. Without infantry support, the German panzer tanks cannot push forward safely. They would be vulnerable to American anti-tank weapons in the woods. The German assault stalls. Murphy does not stop firing. Murphy is exposed on top of the burning tank destroyer. Smoke from the flames provides some concealment, but he is still visible. The Germans throw everything at him. Machine gun fire hammers the hull of the tank destroyer. Rifle rounds ricochet off the metal turret. Mortar shells explode nearby, showering Murphy with dirt and shrapnel. German tank cannons fire at his position. One shell explodes so close that the concussion nearly throws Murphy off the turret. Shrapnel tears into his right leg. Blood soaks through his pant leg. Murphy holds on. He keeps firing. Murphy is also still holding the field telephone. While firing the machine gun with one hand, he uses the other to direct artillery strikes. An artillery officer on the radio asks Murphy how close the Germans are to his position. Murphy shouts back, "Just hold the phone and I will let you talk to one of the bastards." His artillery corrections are precise. Shells rain down on the German formations. Dozens of enemy soldiers are killed, but the Germans keep trying to advance. They move through the woods. They crawl through ditches. They use every bit of cover available. Murphy kills them wherever he sees them. He fires in controlled bursts. He does not waste ammunition. He does not panic. The flames beneath Murphy grow hotter. The fire is spreading toward the ammunition storage compartment. Everyone watching from the tree line expects the tank destroyer to explode. Murphy's own men believe he is going to die. Private First Class Anthony Abramsky later reported that he watched Lieutenant Murphy climb on top of the burning tank destroyer, while bursts of machine pistol fire from the advancing infantry battered against the hull and tread. Other witnesses described Murphy as standing alone against an entire German company. For an hour, Murphy holds the position. He fires the .50 caliber until the ammunition runs dry. He has killed or wounded approximately 50 German soldiers. The German attack has failed. Let us know in the comments where you are watching this from. Are you in the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, or somewhere else? We would love to know who is keeping these stories alive. Murphy climbs down from the turret. He limps back toward the tree line. Blood is running down his leg from the shrapnel wound. He refuses medical treatment. He reorganizes his company and leads them in a counterattack. The Germans, already demoralized and disorganized, begin to retreat. Murphy's men drive them out of the area entirely. Only then does Murphy allow medics to bandage his leg. To understand what Audie Murphy did on that burning tank destroyer, you have to go back to where he came from. Murphy was born on June 20, 1925, in Kingston, Texas. It was a tiny farming community in Hunt County. His family lived in a sharecropper's shack with no electricity and no running water. Murphy was the seventh of 12 children. His father, Emmett Barry Murphy, drifted in and out of the family's life. Eventually, he abandoned them completely. Murphy's mother, Josie Bell Murphy, worked herself to exhaustion trying to feed her children. The Murphy family was desperately poor. By the time Audie was 5 years old, he was already working in the fields. The Great Depression made everything worse. Audie picked cotton for $1 a day. He chopped wood. He delivered newspapers. He dropped out of school in 5th grade because his family needed the money. But the Murphys were still starving, so Audie taught himself to shoot. He borrowed a rifle and spent hours hunting rabbits, squirrels, and birds in the woods around their property. His marksmanship became legendary. He rarely missed. The meat he brought home was often the only food his siblings ate. When Audie was 16, his mother died. She had been sick for months, worn down by poverty and too many pregnancies. Audie's father was already gone. Now Audie and his older siblings had to care for the younger children. There was no money. Some of the Murphy children were placed in an orphanage. Others were taken in by relatives. Audie later said he felt like he had been thrown into the struggle for existence as a child and never escaped. He was alone. He was broke. Then, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Audie saw a way out. Audie Murphy tried to enlist immediately after Pearl Harbor. He walked into a Marine Corps recruiting station in Greenville, Texas. He was 16 years old, weighed 110 pounds, and stood 5 feet 5 inches tall. The recruiter took one look at him and rejected him. Too small. Murphy tried the Navy, rejected. Too young. Murphy tried the Army paratroopers, rejected. Too short. Murphy was furious. He changed his diet and gained weight. His older sister Corrine helped him forge documents to make him appear older. On June 30, 1942, Murphy was finally accepted into the United States Army. He weighed 112 pounds. Basic training revealed Murphy's natural ability. He was an exceptional marksman. The same skills he used to hunt rabbits in Texas made him lethal on the rifle range. His instructors noticed. They also noticed Murphy was quiet, disciplined, and fearless. After training, Murphy was assigned to Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. In February 1943, Murphy shipped out to Casablanca, Morocco. He was 18 years old. He had never been more than 50 miles from his home in Texas. He was about to fight his way across 3 continents. Murphy arrived in North Africa in time for the final push toward Tunis. He was terrified during his first combat engagement. He later admitted the fear nearly broke him. But he did not run. He fought, and he discovered he was good at it. In July 1943, Murphy participated in the Allied invasion of Sicily. He was promoted to corporal. The fighting in Sicily was brutal. Murphy killed his first enemy soldiers. It bothered him, but the killing became easier. It had to. The 3rd Infantry Division was moving fast and the casualties were mounting. In September 1943, Murphy landed at Salerno, Italy. The 3rd Infantry Division fought up the Italian peninsula through some of the bloodiest battles of the war. Murphy fought at the Volturno River, at Anzio, and in the mountains near Cassino. Men he trained with were killed by artillery and machine gun fire. His best friend, Laddie Tipton, was cut in half by a German machine gun. Murphy stopped making friends after that. He stopped writing letters home. He stopped sleeping well. But he kept fighting. He was promoted to sergeant in December 1943 and to staff sergeant in January 1944. Murphy earned the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and the Bronze Star in Italy. In August 1944, Murphy participated in Operation Dragoon, the Allied invasion of southern France. The 3rd Infantry Division came ashore near Saint-Tropez and fought inland. The Germans were retreating, but they made the Allies pay for every mile. Murphy was wounded for the first time in September 1944 near Montélimar. Shrapnel tore into his hip. He refused evacuation. In October, he was wounded again near Clury. He wrapped the wound himself and continued fighting. By January 1945, most of the officers in Company B were dead. Murphy received a battlefield commission to 2nd lieutenant. He was 19 years old and in command of what remained of his company. After WWII, Murphy was pulled from the front lines. He had spent over 400 days in combat. He had been wounded 3 times. He was exhausted and showing signs of what they called battle fatigue. On February 16, 1945, Murphy was promoted to 1st lieutenant. On June 2, 1945, Lieutenant General Alexander Patch presented Murphy with the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "For an hour the Germans tried every available weapon to eliminate Lieutenant Murphy, but he continued to hold his position. His directing of artillery fire wiped out many of the enemy. He killed or wounded about 50. Lieutenant Murphy's indomitable courage and his refusal to give an inch of ground saved his company from possible encirclement and destruction. Murphy became the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. By the war's end, he had earned 33 awards and medals, including every combat decoration the United States Army could give. He had been wounded 3 times. He had killed approximately 240 German soldiers. He served in 9 major campaigns across North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany. He was 20 years old when the war ended. Murphy went home to Texas in June 1945. Thousands of people lined the streets of San Antonio to welcome him. They cheered. They waved flags. Murphy was a national hero, but he felt hollow. If you are enjoying this story and want more untold accounts from World War II, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are bringing you stories that most history books never covered. Murphy could not adjust to civilian life. He suffered from nightmares. He woke up screaming. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow. He could not hold a job. He was angry and depressed. There was no diagnosis for PTSD in 1945. There was no treatment. Murphy drifted. Then actor James Cagney saw Murphy's photograph on the cover of Life magazine and invited him to Hollywood. Murphy went to California with no plan and no experience. Casting directors rejected him. They said he was too small, too quiet, too damaged, but Murphy was stubborn. He took acting classes. He worked as an extra. He survived on handouts from James Cagney and other sympathetic actors. In 1949, Murphy got his first significant role in the film Bad Boy. More roles followed. He starred in westerns and war films. In 1955, Universal Pictures offered Murphy the lead role in To Hell and Back, a film adaptation of his own 1949 autobiography. Murphy was reluctant to relive the war, but he agreed. To Hell and Back was a massive success. It became Universal's highest-grossing film until Jaws 20 years later. Murphy became a movie star, but fame did not fix him. Murphy struggled with rage. His first wife, Dixie Wanda Hendricks, later claimed Murphy once held her at gunpoint during a nightmare. He gambled compulsively and lost huge amounts of money. He became addicted to the sleeping medication Placidil. In the mid-1960s, Murphy locked himself in a motel room for a week to break the addiction. He succeeded through sheer willpower, but the nightmares never stopped. Murphy could have hidden his struggles. Most veterans did, but Murphy chose to speak out. In the late 1960s, as American soldiers returned from Vietnam, Murphy began talking publicly about what he called battle fatigue. He testified before Congress. He called on the government to provide better mental health care for veterans. He said the invisible wounds of war were just as real as the physical ones. Murphy used his fame to advocate for men who had no voice. At the time, admitting mental health struggles was seen as weakness. Murphy did it anyway. He believed veterans deserved better. By the early 1970s, Murphy's life had stabilized. He was still acting occasionally. He had remarried and had 2 sons. He had financial problems, but he refused offers to endorse alcohol or cigarettes because he did not want to set a bad example for young people. He was planning to write another book about his post-war struggles. He wanted to continue advocating for veterans. Then, on May 28, 1971, Murphy boarded a private plane near Atlanta, Georgia. He was flying to a business meeting in Martinsville, Virginia. The weather was bad. Rain, fog, and clouds covered the mountains. The plane crashed into Brush Mountain near Roanoke, Virginia. Murphy and 5 others were killed instantly. He was 45 years old. The news shocked the nation. President Richard Nixon called Murphy an extraordinary hero. Veterans groups mourned. Hollywood remembered him. But the most powerful tributes came from the men who served with him. They remembered the skinny kid from Texas who climbed onto a burning tank destroyer and refused to leave. They remembered the officer who stayed with them when he could have gone home. They remembered the man who fought for them long after the war ended. Murphy was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors on June 7, 1971. Ambassador to the United Nations George H.W. Bush attended. Army Chief of Staff William Westmoreland attended. Many soldiers from the 3rd Infantry Division attended. Murphy's gravesite is in Section 46. A special flagstone walkway was constructed to accommodate the large number of visitors. Murphy's grave became the second most visited site in Arlington National Cemetery, after President John F. Kennedy's grave. Every year, thousands of people leave flowers, flags, and handwritten notes. The numbers from January 26, 1945, tell the story of an impossible stand. 1 man, 1 machine gun, 6 German tanks and 250 infantrymen stopped cold. 50 enemy soldiers killed or wounded by Murphy alone. 1 hour on top of a burning vehicle that could have exploded at any second. Murphy weighed 130 pounds and stood 5 feet 5 inches tall. He was 19 years old. Against an entire German company, he did not give an inch of ground. Murphy's military record is staggering. 33 awards and decorations, 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star, the Medal of Honor, over 400 days in combat, 9 campaigns across 3 theaters of war, approximately 240 confirmed enemy kills, 3 wounds, 0 days of unauthorized leave. Murphy enlisted at 17. He was discharged at 20. In 3 years, he became the most decorated soldier in American military history. The cost was equally staggering. Murphy suffered from PTSD for the rest of his life. He had nightmares every night for decades. He slept with a loaded weapon. He struggled with addiction. He had violent outbursts. He could not maintain relationships. He lost friends. He lost money. He lost peace. The medals and the fame could not fix what the war broke inside him. But Murphy refused to let his pain be wasted. He used his platform to help other veterans. He spoke openly about his struggles when no one else would. He advocated for mental health care when it was not popular. He fought for veterans the same way he fought at WWII. Alone, against overwhelming odds, refusing to quit. The stand at WWII remains one of the most extraordinary acts of individual courage in American military history. Murphy was outnumbered, he was outgunned, he was wounded. He was standing on a vehicle that could have killed him at any moment. He stayed anyway. He held the line. He saved his company. He refused to give an inch. That is the story people remember. But the rest of Murphy's life matters just as much. He came home from the war and struggled. He fought battles no one could see. He survived when survival seemed impossible. He helped other veterans when he could barely help himself. Murphy's advocacy helped change the way America treats veterans with PTSD. His willingness to speak openly about psychological trauma helped remove some of the stigma. His testimony before Congress helped push the government to provide better mental health care. The Audie Murphy VA Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, is named in his honor. The Sergeant Audie Murphy Club, established in 1986, recognizes outstanding non-commissioned officers in the United States Army. Murphy's story is taught at military academies and leadership schools around the world. His autobiography, To Hell and Back, is still read by soldiers today. Murphy's grave at Arlington is covered in tributes. Visitors leave coins, medals, and flags. They leave letters thanking him for his service. They leave photographs of themselves or their relatives who served. Veterans salute his headstone. Children learn his story in school and insist their parents take them to Arlington to see where he is buried. Murphy's legacy is not just the medals or the Hollywood career. It is the reminder that courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of fear. It is standing when everything tells you to run. It is fighting for others when you are barely holding on yourself. It is easy to look at Audie Murphy's medals and forget he was human. He was terrified in combat. He cried. He had nightmares. He struggled with guilt over the men he killed and the friends he lost. He was angry, damaged, and haunted, but he fought anyway. He climbed onto that burning tank destroyer not because he was fearless, but because his men needed him. That is the real story. Not the medals, not the Hollywood career, not even the hour on the burning tank. The real story is the boy who grew up with nothing, who lost everything, who was broken by war, and who still found the strength to keep fighting. Murphy lived for 26 years after WWII. He struggled, he suffered, but he also loved, laughed, and tried to make the world better for the men who came after him. He used his fame for something meaningful. He refused to let his pain be wasted. When he died in that plane crash, he left behind a legacy that still inspires soldiers, veterans, and ordinary people facing impossible battles. The tank destroyer is gone. The field at WWII is quiet now, but the story remains. One man, one machine gun, 1 hour, and the courage to stand when every instinct screamed to run.